Diversity by default, and are based in Singapore, and the facilitators from there are going to be presenting their workshop, and we are basically the first city in Australia where this has ever been done, guys. So you guys are all a bunch of guinea pigs. It's going to be fantastic. The Diversity by Default workshop is a card game comprising 60 carefully designed cards aimed at fostering meaningful conversations about race, religion, nationality, ethnicity, disability and mental health. So when you think about it, it's almost tying together everything we've done this morning. It's fantastic. This game encourages players to engage in thoughtful discussions with one another. It serves as a valuable community building tool, specifically crafted to facilitate meaningful conversations around diversity, discrimination and inclusion. By playing this game, participants have the opportunity to develop essential distinctions, grammar and vocabulary necessary to embrace and express the various layers of our identities. So, if you would be so kind as to welcome up here Basil and Beverly Kanagara, please.
Thank you very much, everyone. My name is Basil Kanagara, and roaming about will be Beverly, Bev. She's actually my sister as well, and she runs the back end, all the logistics and admin for Being Bridges. Again, our organization's called Being Bridges. Diversity by Default is the name of the card game that you guys are going to be able to play today. Also, something to note, Being Bridges, we are a tiny social consultancy. So social consultancy, basically my expertise is in intercultural, interfaith and interracial dialogue. I've studied in this, especially interreligious dialogue. That's where my deepest passion is and my specialization. But I also suffer from neurodiversity. I was born with ADHD and a certain slowness in my brain that, interestingly, despite the weakness because of that slowness due to from reading and writing, that's where I'm really slow at, I'm also surprisingly creative. Right? Just surprisingly creative. And if you guys are exposed to kids with ADHD, or especially adults with ADHD, for some reason, because our brains lack certain walls that separate things from each other, we are able to take concepts from mathematics and bring it into spirituality, right? Take things from disabilities, the sector, people who do work with disabilities, and bring it into intercultural dialogue, right? And so you guys are going to experience this a little bit with this card game that we've created, where we've brought in different forms of diversity because we are all unique. We've all been born differently, and that's our identity. It's our strength. Sometimes our weakness, but it's where our gifts are. And those gifts are special because those gifts are resources we have as humanity, right? As human society to create that peace. And this whole thing from this morning till now, and we just rushed over from the youth symposium just across the car park. And that and this, it's all about peace. But peace comes from work. A lot of work, a lot of getting to know each other, understanding each other, right? So again, I'm Basil from Being Bridges. Bev will be roaming about, helping us out with the cards and answering your questions as well. There she is at the front. Wave, please, Bev. Thank you. And we will begin. Right, so if any of you guys are interested in asking us questions, my email address is up there, hello@beingbridges. What we focus on in Being Bridges is intercultural innovation. I love that word, innovation. It's easy to just have simple dialogues about different cultures, religions, races, nationalities, languages, food even. But sometimes, not so easy, right? If you think about it, conceptually it's simple enough. And then you put people together in the same room, and it's so hard to foster that dialogue. And quite often what we have, at least in Singapore, and I suspect it might be the same for you guys here in Australia, is that you'll have a bunch of experts sitting on the stage, right? You'll have the Minister of Parliament, you'll have a priest, you'll have a monk, you might have a university professor, and they'll be speaking from their expertise, which is great, but quite often we don't have us speaking. Right? We are in the audience, we are nodding our heads, we are clapping our hands, and we are receiving info. A lot of my work is, hey, that's really great. It's the culture in which I've been brought up in, listening to all these diversity experts share, but can I tweak it? Can I improve it and innovate diversity dialogues with different things? And I'll be showing you 3 examples of what we've done back home in Singapore. You guys will experience 2 of them here. Again, Being Bridges is a social enterprise. For those of you who are not aware of what a social enterprise is, I suspect many of you would be. We sort of sit in the gray zone between a non-profit organization and a profit-driven enterprise. So you've got a profit-making company on one end, a non-profit, and if these are 2 circles, we are in the overlap between the 2 circles. So basically, we are an enterprise with a desire to create social impact, right? So we do the typical work of a non-profit, yet we have to survive and have some sort of financial sustainability as well. That's why a social enterprise. So that's us, Being Bridges. We develop tools. These tools are products. They can be programs. Sometimes we even develop processes that help other organizations with the work that they do. And these primary tools that we create basically are meant to support interfaith, interracial, and intercultural dialogue. So we help other communities, agencies, sometimes government ministries, schools, churches, temples, mosques. We've done quite a bunch of them. And well, today, Toowoomba and Pure Land, right? They're helping you guys with anything that might come up in terms of interfaith, interracial, and intercultural conversations. These are 3 of the tools that we've created. Diversity by Default is a cross-sector conversational card game. You'll get a taster of it after this, so I won't explain too much right now. Being Guest, some of you will notice our little booth at the back near the eating areas. It's basically virtual reality tours of religious places of worship. Because to bring people, we've noticed back home in Singapore, people who have been on visits to each other's places of worship, be it a Catholic church, Protestant church, a mosque, a Buddhist temple, a Hindu temple, a Baha'i space of worship, right? These different places and the visits that people have to these places seem to open them up to friendship, to awareness, and to familiarity. So people who have been on these tours, they've done our surveys and they say, hey, you know, these things work. Like we have developed certain understanding, openness of the differences in our neighborhoods, in our communities. The interesting thing we found out in our surveys was that even the people who have not been on these visits, when we tell them about the concept, getting on a bus, going to visit a mosque, a church, and a temple, there's a click in them that thinks, it might work. You know, it might work. I'm sort of open to this, and I believe that would help to foster peace in my neighborhood. So it's really interesting. People have been on those real-life tours, say it works. People who have not gone on those real-life tours also say it probably works. So we thought, why don't more people go on these tours? One, sometimes there's the intimidation. We have to acknowledge that, right? People are scared of a new place of worship that they've never entered before. They do not understand the different religion. Quite often back home, it's also the organization that you have to go through, the coordination. You have to hire the bus driver, right? You have to make sure there are enough people who have signed up. You have to provide food, right? Cater for lunch or tea time. And then there's people who might be late and, you know, little mix-ups that can happen at each place of worship. So because of all the complications, we realized, can we bring the mosque, the church, or the temples to people where they are at, in their community centers, their schools, their colleges, their HR departments, in the workspaces? But even this, can we bring the mosque, the church, and the temple to each other? So we've had in Singapore, like a mosque hiring us so that we can bring inter-religious dialogue to their mosque. And then a Hindu organization hiring us so that we can bring people from other faiths into their organization and experience this. And sometimes they even put up the virtual reality tours of these other places of worship. So imagine this, entering into a mosque and you get a virtual reality tour of a church. or entering into a temple and a virtual reality tour of a different temple. So that's virtual reality. For those of you who have not experienced it over lunch or tea time, we'll be here till the evening, so be sure to have a look. Again, it's VR, so basically, you've got the tour in front of you with the religious leader guiding you around. You can even turn around, look to your right, look behind you, look to the ceiling, look to the floor. It's 360 degrees. So that's being guest. Being community, something we've done whereby it was conversations about discrimination, interracial discrimination and interreligious discrimination that were happening in Singapore. And the government of Singapore had hired us to conduct these conversations via social media. But you know how these things can get violent. It can get aggressive with people getting upset. So our whole aim was to move towards what do we do now? We know discrimination happens. Can we talk about it? Can we release that valve? And what's the process of healing that comes? And so we had a very powerful learning experiences. It went on for about 6 months, but done online, that really engaged the youth into these sorts of intercultural conversations. But today's event, so it's a card game called Diversity by Default. Why? Because diversity is our default. It's not a fault, it's not a problem, it's where we all start. And we begin at diversity, and the mindset is, what do we do with our diversity? So that's it, and for today, what you guys are going to have is a special taster. We've developed different ways of playing with these cards, small groups, large groups, right? What we are offering you today is basically a special peace conference style energizer. Here's the thing, quite often, this session after lunch, in Christian context, if you grew up in the U.S., in the Midwest, with a lot of these Protestant churches around, and then like a pastor, Christian minister will be sort of giving a retreat for like the whole of Saturday, right? And what happens is after lunch, that pastor usually gives it to his intern or his assistant. So quite often this after lunch session is known as the assistant minister session, right? Because if the assistant minister can keep you guys awake, he must be doing a good job, and he can move up to becoming a minister. I actually described that about 4 years ago here in Toowoomba when I was first here for that first conference as well, right? So my job here is to make sure you guys are awake, you guys are talking, sharing, and there's some vibrant environment in the room. So diversity by default, what is it? It's a community building tool designed to create meaningful conversations about diversity, inclusion, and belonging. Players, which are you guys today, you get the opportunity to develop helpful distinctions, grammar, vocabulary for intercultural dialogue. It forces people to talk. You may not need help with that, but it gives you that opportunity and to practice. We were very fortunate when we had created it. Singapore had this big international conference opened up by our president. She's now former president. She just finished her term 2 or 3 months ago, and a new president was elected. So our former president, Halimah Yacob, the president of Singapore, actually talked about us in her opening speech to 500 delegates from around the world. So it's a great honor for us. There were people from the Vatican, from Buddhist temples in Taiwan, from just all the Middle East as well, so all over the world. And she said these 2 things that were really true of the card game, that it's possible to have fun while generating constructive dialogue. That's what we want you guys to experience today. And that such initiatives, creating a card game is not easy. It was a 2-year project. Actually, we worked with an award-winning board game designer. We brought in the diversity skills. We worked with a disabilities organization to bring in the disabilities knowledge, and we merged them all into one. And she was talking about how such initiatives help to dispel misperceptions, build bonds, and create trust. We hope some of this can happen today as well. Last thing I'll share before I go into the guidelines for how to play. why and how did we create this card game? By the way, the photos here, thank you, John, if you're in the room. Taz, I should say, right? The scout leader from Bunya Park Scout Troop. We had a session with the scouts last night. Again, Bunya Park Scout Troop, right? And photos of them over there. The scouts were lucky last night. They had a chance to experience 2 versions of this game. Small group conversations where their little patrols broke out into small groups in corners of the room to have deeper, longer conversations. For you guys, we've got less time, so you guys are going to experience the large group conversation. Because these cards are designed where you can sit around a table and play them with 5 people, or you can play them in a conference style with 500 people in the room. And we'll show you how both. In fact, I'll introduce both to you. But the question that we asked ourselves basically was, how could we make diversity conversations more inclusive? Because diversity is supposed to lead to social harmony, supposed to lead to belonging, to inclusion. But one issue we noticed previously, at least, and especially back home in Singapore, is quite often the experts on stage telling us what to do. So our goal with the card game is, hey, how can we, instead of just having the experts, we also use the experts on the ground, right? So that's you guys, diversity by the diverse themselves, not just the experts. But secondly, we notice different forms of diversity do not actually talk to each other much. So we've got interracial, not really having much conversation with disabilities. We've got maybe interreligious, maybe not having so much conversations with intergenerational dialogue and diversity. So can we take these different forms of diversity and open up the windows? I'm Catholic myself, right? And Vatican II, one of these major councils that we had, that renewed the church. The Pope at the time had this beautiful imagery of opening up the windows of the Vatican, of the church, right? How about with the silos within diversity? We don't have to break the silos, but could we open up the windows of these silos, and intercultural can say hello to people who eat fusion food, you know, and intergenerational say hello to interracial. So cross-sector, right? We are crossing the sectors of diversity instead of just the silos. And the last thing, quite often, diversity dialogues are centralized. You come to, let's say, a space like Toowoomba. You come by buses, we flew by plane, we've met a few of you guys from different places. It's quite hard to pack up everything that you've heard in this conference hall and bring it back to your communities. So what we created with this card game was basically a packable conference, right? It's just a little card game. You get to put it in your pocket. It's portable. You get to bring it back home to your church, your family, your HR department or school, right? And you get to have these conversations there. So the idea here is, instead of centralize, we decentralize it and we make the conversations portable. So that's that. I'll share with you 2 different formats which we use for this card game. So again, it's diversity, right? So diverse gameplay formats. Actually, before that, it's good to explain the cards that you will see very soon, right? Bev's already set them up at the outsides of your table, and we'll pass them around very, very briefly. If you notice, right, we've got a few colors of cards, purple, red, and green, right? They've got numbers, they've got symbols on them. You don't have to worry so much about them. You just have to focus on the questions right below. It's got titles as well. Titles are more for fun or chemical or something meaningful, but we're just going to focus on the questions for today. And with this anatomy of the card, right? By the way, in case you are wondering, 1 just means level 1, level 2, level 3. That's level of difficulty, right? So level 1 questions, a little more basic. Level 2, intermediate. Level 3 are like commentaries on society, right? So a little bit more thoughtful. Those symbols, right? These questions tend to be more about the individual. These questions with 3 human figures there, more about the community. And this question with the sphere, with the globe, it's more an question about global society, right? Or wider society. So that's just general knowledge for you guys to know. One more piece of general knowledge, the colors. Purple tends to be about race or religion. Red tends to be about nationality or other forms of culture. And teal tends to be about abilities, disabilities, and like I described my ADHD, neurodiversity. And we've also thrown in certain questions about generations as well. So keep that in mind, right? There'll be questions about abilities. There'll be questions about age, about nationality, about race and religion. The most important thing you'll have to note are these words in black, bolded black, right? So we had this little dilemma that we had to solve. How do we make our cards contextual and specific to Singapore, yet also have Americans and Australians, Europeans, people from Africa, Latin America, right, to be able to use these same cards. So these words in bold, you get to replace. So if you're not comfortable asking the question, what permission do you feel you have to talk about race, you can switch that to religion. You can switch that to nationality, right? What permission do I feel talking about nationality? What's your attitude toward migrant workers, towards migrants, towards exchange students? You get to change those words as well to what you are comfortable with. And the final thing, like, especially where it says Singapore, which parts of Singapore are not accessible to you? Feel free to change it to which parts of Australia, to wherever else you're from, or even change it to which parts of my neighborhood, which parts of my college, right, are not accessible to me. So feel free to change those things. This is our small group format. Like I mentioned, what we did with the Scouts, we could have 5 participants, 5 players sitting around 5 tables just playing, right, with these cards on the tables, deeper conversations, more gentle, more meaningful. You can have as many breakout groups as you want. Normally about 5 participants per table, sometimes 4 or 6. It looks like this. You've got 2 cards in the center for icebreakers, 2 bunch of cards, 8 cards in the inner circle, level 1 cards, easy to start with, and on the outer circle, level 2 and level 3 cards. And you basically start from inside the circle and you move outwards, and you get to skip cards, you get to move to the next card by its side, the adjacent cards there. But again, that's just for your general knowledge in case you want to experiment with playing it on your own, in your own communities. Today's format. And I'm just about ending right now. These will be your instructions, and then we start the actual activity. This is our large-scale conference version, right? 100 people, 200. We've done it with 500 people as well. I'm going to ask you guys, right, to grab a card each. Bev, the cards ready? Right. So there's someone at the lead of your table. They're going to help distribute the cards. So look to the back. Your cards are coming down. And we're going to do this in steps, simple steps. So 1 card per person, yeah? Okay, so just 1 card per person. Okay, does everyone have a card? Who does not have a card? Raise your hands, please. Oops, someone here does not have a card. Bev? Anyone else without a card right now? Please raise your hands. Anyone without a card? Please raise your hands. There and there. And they've got spare cards over there, Bev. Thank you. Anyone else over here without a card? Nope. Okay, so now, just look at your card and your question. Only focus on your question. I want you guys to read that question silently to yourself and think about your answer. And don't worry, you're not stuck to these cards, right? You're going to swap them very soon. So yeah, just read your question, right? And think about your answer. How would you answer this question? Okay. We're going to start off right now. May I ask everyone to stand up, please? Okay, this is to prevent you guys from falling asleep, right? Now, I would like you to go around the room and find a partner, someone you have not spoken to today yet, right? Find one partner each, someone you have not spoken to, and introduce yourselves. Has everyone got a partner? Who does not have a partner, please raise your hands. Oh, over here, she does not have a partner. Oh. Who does not have a partner, please raise your hands. Here. Anyone else without a partner, please raise your hands. Over here. Over there. Here. Okay, you too. Anyone else without a partner? Over there, there's someone at the back. Okay, everyone's got a partner. Don't forget to introduce yourself. If you are comfortable standing, please remain standing. If you need a seat, right, this is just going to take about 3 minutes. If you need a seat, feel free to have a seat, right? But if comfortable standing, we'll continue in this way. This is what we're going to do. Okay, everyone said. Right. So now we are going to allocate in each pair someone to be person A and someone to be person B. Oh, one last thing. We learned this from the scouts last night. Every time they needed silence, they raised their hand. So let's practice that right now, because this is going to turn into a marketplace. Right? It's going to be noisy, it's going to be vibrant, there's going to be lots of laughing, jumping around maybe, right? So we're going to have to attract your attention to get some silence to move on to each step, right? So can we practice? When I raise my hands, everyone else raise your hands as well. And if you notice others raising their hands, please raise your hands. So it's a symbol for, hey, okay, time's up. We're moving on to the next step. Let's try that again. I'm not even going to say I'm going to do it. Excellent, awesome. Thank you, Bunya Park Scout Troop. Yes, teaching us a new skill. So that's what we're going to do. So this first step right now, nobody's going to answer the question yet. You're just going to read out one question. So what's going to happen is you're going to allocate to each other. One person in your partnership is going to be person A. Person A, please raise your hands. Choose someone as person A. Awesome. Person A, raise your hands. Excellent. Hands down, person A. Person B, raise your hands. Awesome. Person B, you can put down your hand. So what we're going to do is person A, you're going to read out your question. We're going to try to clarify it if anybody misunderstands the question. Do not try to answer it yet, but we're just going to read question A. Please begin. Okay. Hope to have a look out next, huh? Now, can we understand the question? Any difficulties with the question? Please raise your hands. Bev or myself will come around. Bev, over here. If anyone needs a clarification on the question, please raise your hands. Yes, over here, I'll help. Yes. Oh, just read the question for now. We'll answer it soon. Ah, great. Yeah, just read it. Just read it. Anyone else who needs some clarity about the question? Raise your hands. Nope. Okay. Awesome. So what we're going to do now, and this is going to be a bit of a surprise. Person A, you are going to answer your question. Person B, you do not have to answer yet, right? So it's your question, you are going to answer it first, right? So question A, person A. Only person A will have to answer, but you only have 30 seconds, right? So you have 30 seconds. Try to figure out how you might squeeze your answer into 30 seconds for now, right? Don't worry, we've got other timings later on. But let's think about it. How can I squeeze my answer into 30 seconds? And person A, your time begins now. You can start answering. Yep. Okay, hands up. Hands up, everyone. Thank you very much. Perfect. Right, so we've heard person A's answer. Right now, we're going to hear person B's answer for that same question, right? We are just on that one question that we've heard just now, question A, right? So now person B, oh, do we have a question over here? No? No? Okay, excellent. Person B, you've got 30 seconds to try to answer that same question. Your time begins now, 30 seconds. Okay. Oh, wonderful.
Sorry about getting the name wrong, mate.
Oh, no worries about that. Quite a lot of people call our projects by our company or company by projects. We're used to it. Okay, hands up. Hands up. Right? So sorry to interrupt you guys. So 30 seconds is up. Put down your hands right now. We've got one more question left, right? So question B. So person B, you've got a question there. Do not answer it yet. You don't have to share your response. Just read out the question. Make sure your partner understands it. You can start now. Okay. Does everyone understand the question that you have? If you don't understand the question, if you need some clarification, please raise your hands. Anyone needs clarification? No? We all understand it? Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to begin, right? So this was question B. So person B, you've got 30 seconds. Ooh. Conversation still going on? Okay. Whoa. Okay, just some silence, please, right? No need any clarity? Okay, excellent. Hands down, right? So, person B, you're going to answer your question now. You've got 30 seconds. You begin. Okay, hands up. Thank you. Hands up, everyone. Thank you. Right, so we've got one more response to go. Hands down. Person A. You're the last responder, so that's question that's just been answered. Your turn, you've got 30 seconds. Your time begins now. Oh, answer the question or question B? Yeah. Oh, okay. Then we just hold on for a while. We're done. Yeah. Yeah. You may have to help the old man standing with the red suspenders if he gets confused. Yeah. Okay, hands up. Hands up. Thank you very much. Okay, what we're going to do now, hands down. Please thank your partner, shake hands, bow, nod, kowtow, wave, high five, or hug. Thank you. Right? Before you separate, can I ask you guys to swap cards? Exchange cards, please. Right? So everyone exchange cards? Okay, what we're going to do now, before we begin with another round of this, where we're going to twist it a little bit, can I ask, how many of you guys had a question about religion? Raise your hands. Right. How many of you guys had a question about race? Raise your hands. Nationality? Right, over there, thank you. How many of you guys had a question about grandparents or family history? Oh, right, a few, thank you. How many of you guys had a question about abilities and disabilities? Okay, quite a few, right? So we're going to experience a couple more questions, just maybe 2 or 3 more, right? But you've already finished your partnership. Please go find one other person for a new partner. And I would encourage you, right? Okay, oh wait, before that, yes. Person A, could you raise your hands, please? Okay, this is to make it easier to find someone without a partner, right? Person B, you guys are going to look around the room for a new person A. So, persons A, keep your hands high up. So, person B, please find a new partner, someone else who's person A with their hands up. So, someone with their hands up and someone without their hands up. Yep. Okay. We've got one more. We've got someone who's a person A who's looking for person B. Over here. Oh, you know him. Oh, over there. Over there. Right. Over there, there's a lady over there in red. Right. Right, so everyone's got a partner. Please introduce yourselves. Oh, someone over there at Zach. Up. There at the back. Who doesn't have a partner yet? Please raise your hands. Oh, over here, there's a lady here without a partner. Over here. Oh, over there. She's coming over here. Right there. There, in black, Beth. Right. Okay, once more, I'm going to invite you guys, if you're comfortable standing, please remain standing. If you need a seat, please grab a chair, right? I'll let you guys finish introducing yourselves. Okay, so I noticed some of you have started reading out your questions. So please, person A and only person A, you can read out your question. Do not respond to it yet. Your task is just to read the question. So please read out your question and make sure your partner understands it. Right. If anyone does not understand your question, please raise your hands. If you need any clarification to the question, you can raise your hands. Over there at the back, someone does not understand a question. Can the partner help explain it? Or maybe I'll help. Yep, do you need help with understanding the question? Oh, right. What belief do you have about Toowoomba? What faith do you have that Toowoomba will conviction do you have for Toowoomba or Australia? Yeah. Yeah, it's like your faith in your nation, your faith. Oh no, you can also have your. Oh, you can also have your loyalty to your country. Right? Oh yeah, yeah. Right. And for those of you who might have a question, what faith do you have in Toowoomba? Or what faith do you have in Australia? Right? It's about, what do I believe about how well Australia can do? Okay, so we're going to start proper right now. So person A, you've just read out your question. We're going to have right now an extended time, 60 seconds. So that's 1 minute. So feel free to draw out your answer, right? Feel free to give examples, give contradictions, give a case study, give the reasons why this is your answer. And person B, you're going to help your partner out. You're going to draw out that story from them. Oh, please share an example. Oh, please tell me more. Please tell me why, right? How did that begin, right? So person A, you're going to start. You've got a full minute right now to answer your question. Just one person answering, but person B can help that person out. So 1 minute beginning now. Okay, hands up. Time's up, hands up. Hands up, everyone. It's nice to see the conversations getting more and more engaging and people just wanting to continue. Thank you very much. So now, person B, it's your turn to answer that same question. And again, the same task, right? Person A, it's your task, right? To you help your partner along, right? Ask her more, ask for the reasons, ask for why, share a story, right? But person B, your time to share. You have 60 seconds starting now. Okay. Hands up, time's up. Hands up, time's up. Hands up, time's up. It's just wonderful to see so many people sharing with each other. Okay, hands down. We've got one more question there, right? Person B has not shared their question. Again, do not respond yet. You're just sharing the question and making sure your partner understands your question. Please start. Person B, the question that hasn't been shared yet. Yep. Not the answer yet, but just reading out the question so that you guys know. Okay. Everyone understands your question? Okay, everyone understands the question. Thank you. I think some of you have already begun answering, so tell you what, person B, you can start answering your question now. You have 60 seconds, right? And person A, please help her or him along with the question. So 60 seconds to just answer. Person B, you have 60 seconds to start. Yeah. Okay, time's up, hands up. Hands up, time's up. We're going to do one more round, right? One more round, one more response you're going to listen to. Basically, that same question that you've heard, right? Person A, it's your turn to answer, right? So person A, your turn to answer. You have 60 seconds. Person B, please help them along. Get more stories and examples out, right? So you have 60 seconds. Person A, your time starts now. Sorry? Oh, six. Wait, okay. Got 60. Okay. Thank you. Hands up. Time's up. Hands up. Time's up. Thank you very much. Now, before we end, I promise you this part here, right? We'll close up the partnership here, but before we end the partnership, may I ask, did anyone have something interesting that was talked about in your partnership that you might want to share? Everything was interesting. Can you tell us more? What was the question that you received? What was the question that you got?
She said I'm the best.
Ah, you're the best. That's always interesting. You guys want to share your question and one of your responses?
Well, that was the question that Manji had, and she talked about the time when she left her country and how she had been, what had happened in the country and been marginalised, and then coming to Australia and her first experiences.
Beautiful, right? So the question that we have here is recount a first-hand experience of being marginalized. And manager is sharing about how she was marginalized in her home country, in her own country, and had left her country to come to Australia in order to escape that marginalization and her experiences there. No worries. Thank you for being vulnerable. One other, yeah, over here. What was the question? And what's your name, by the way? Ray, nice to meet you. Here it says, every little bit helps. How able do you feel you are to help someone with disabilities? How able do you feel you are to help someone with disabilities? And what was the answer?
I don't know how many people can see this. This is a lanyard. This is a green lanyard with sunflowers on it. This is something to identify people who have invisible disabilities. It was developed in the airports, so airport staff can see if someone was experiencing difficulties. They could see this and realise they may be sensory overload, they may be about to have a seizure, they know they need medical intervention pretty quickly. These are now being given away in shopping centres throughout Australia, and Clifford Gardens, as of about 2 months ago, started bringing them up here in the information desks. So if you see someone wearing this, you know they have an invisible disability. So I find it rather ironic that the question was, how do you feel you can help someone? If you see this, they have an invisible disability and they're going to need a hand.
Beautiful. Thank you for that, Ray. I think I may need one. My disability is inside my head, right, with neurodiversity, so it is invisible. Yes, please, I do. Thank you. One more partnership would like to share? Yes, I will. One more partnership which would like to share your story. Anything interesting? Thank you. Over here. And what's your name, ma'am?
Ilham.
Ilham?
Yes.
Could you read out your question for us?
Share about someone know who has a disability or mental health condition. Recently, his or her journey toward being accepting or avoided. I want to share my story. Before, just for 4 years, I'm disability, like mobility and talking. All just my left hand, just not moving, not talking, and my mouth just gone this here. And just my kids just at home. And that is why I want to say, no anyone can say like this disability of like mental health or physically or something like that, because I can do something in my life and for other people. And I have 2 kids and the school in Harristown, and I want to say thank you for the school and say to me, your kids is staying home and will send all activities and everything about school in desktop and finish the first term like that, and stay like more than 3 months and 17 days in hospital, and after that stay in my home and work just online to pay my rent and everything. I'm not feel I'm disability, I feel I'm okay. And after that I study just course certificate for disability and educate, try to help any people and encourage, hey, you can do something for yourself and other community and other people, then stay like that. And other people try to deal with this disability people as a normal, don't special deals or treatment like that. Because if any human being just like Pharaoh can do any something like that, this is disability. If no mental health, if no physical disability, we are not disability. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And she had a wonderful point there, right? We can help ourselves as well as others. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I'll ask you some debrief, reflective questions right after this. You guys will have a chance to see it. But before anything, could we pass both your cards to just one person? That way we reduce the number of people we have to collect cards from. So just one person in your pair will hold on to the cards. Just one person hold on to the cards. Yep, just one person. And please thank your partner. Again, shake hands, hug, wave, bow. Up to you. Yes. Now, Beverly's at the back of the room. Could you return the cards there? And please grab a seat. You can return to your spaces. You can grab a seat. Beverly's at the back collecting cards. Thank you. Please grab your seat. We are about to end. Thank you very much, everyone. May I have a show of hands. We're going to do this. It's a common reflective method. Head, heart, hands. Yeah? In terms of head, basically I'm going to ask you guys a question about whether you've learned something new, some new insight, something cognitive, something intellectual, some knowledge. How many of you guys, please raise your hands, how many of you have learned something new today? Please raise your hands. Thank you very much, right? So that's about 75% of you. Hands down, thank you. Right, that's head, right? How many of you have learned something new? But heart, how many of you, in the sharings that you've had, whether it's your own sharing that you've given to others, or the sharing that others have heard from, that you have heard from others that you have spoken to, how many of you were touched at the level of heart? So you felt something, you felt sad, you felt glad, you felt scared, or maybe you felt mad about something. Maybe it was an important issue, it was a disastrous thing, and you felt frustrated. So how many of you felt something? There was some emotion that rose up in you as you shared just now, or as you heard others share. Please raise your hands, or raise them high, please. Thank you. Very nice. About 65% of you. Thank you. You can put your hands down. Last one. Hands, right? Head, heart, hands. Hands is like, how many of you guys have heard something that makes you want to go do stuff? You want to go fix the world, or at least fix your neighborhood, or fix that issue, this concern, right? Or this thing happens even in my family, maybe I should speak to the person. How many of you guys, at the level of hands, you were affected, you're not sure what yet. You may not know what you're going to do yet, but you just feel like you want to do something. Please raise your hands. Oh, very nice. Very, very nice. Thank you. Beautiful. You can put your hands down now, right? Can I ask you, as we end off, right? I've got 10 minutes left, but I'll make it very quick into maybe 5 minutes even, and I'll let you guys ask me questions, right? But what was the most interesting thing that you experienced in this session, or the most interesting thing that you have learned in this session so far? This helps me out for my future projects. Would anyone like to share what struck you? What came up in you that you might want to share? Very emotional, thank you. Yes. Thank you. Manaji had a good point. She said it was very emotional because you go back to the truth, the hidden truth. And that's a bit of a difference between when you get the experts sharing with you, where they've got the research, they've got the studies, they've got the surveys, they've got the data, but you're not hearing each other's stories, each other's truths, right? So the card game was a way to get the truth out, the stories out. There was someone else over here, yourself, sir.
From an analytical perspective, just the concept of diversity poses so many questions about diversity, how many, what diversity, and so on. And if you reach that, that figure spreads out even further. You know, it's just endless almost.
Yes.
So how do you solve that problem?
I don't know about how we solve that problem, but I know where we start, which is why we call the game diversity by default, because it's where we start off. You know, you've got the starting blocks at the beginning of the race. If we acknowledge diversity as not the problem, it's not the fault, it's the default. We begin at the default, that's our platform, and we move, right, from intercultural to interreligious, interracial, intergenerational, interlinguistic, did I say generational? Yes, right? Abilities, neurodiversity, right? All these things, even fusion food, right? And slowly we start to understand our common human identity. Before we move on to two more, I noticed 2 hands up. I'll share with you something we've noticed. When we conduct this in Singapore, when it's a diverse makeup, right? Like racially diverse, religiously diverse, where noticeably with your eyes, you can tell, oh, this is a diverse group. People discover commonalities. But sometimes in Singapore, we do this with groups of people where everyone's the same race. Or if, let's say we are doing it for a Chinese school, everyone's Chinese. Sometimes we are doing it for a mosque and there everyone's Muslim. But even within the Chinese school, in their form of their Chinese dialects that they have, they discover diversity in their language, the dialects that they speak at home. They discover diversity in their religions, their faith beliefs, right? Whether it's Christian or Buddhist or Taoist or even atheist, right? So even in the same race of people, you have diversity. When we do it in the mosque, everyone's Muslim, but they realize they had different races, ethnicities, countries of origin. They eat different food at home. They speak different languages at home. So even in commonality, we've got diversity, right? Such an interesting thing to discover and find out. I had two more hands up over here. Tess, oh, you've got a mic, perfect.
Couple of things. I think one thing, it makes us very vulnerable when we do this, because you are talking to strangers and you're sharing your life story.
Yep.
It's a very vulnerable thing. The other thing is that I was privileged enough to do it last night with our scout group, and the youth that were engaged in it were absolutely enjoyed it, and they were very engaged in the conversations that we had. And it sort of surprised me, because we have a very outgoing, a very energetic group of young people who come to Scouts, but they sat down and they got very deep into discussions, and they really enjoyed it. And I think it really struck with them how much diversity we do have even within our own city. So yeah.
Yes, thank you very much, Tess. And like I said to you guys earlier on, the Scouts were really lucky last night. They had 2 hours. So we did one version, which is what you guys had, the conference hall version, the large scale version, and we did the small group version, where it was 5 Scouts around the table, and they went deep into the conversation, where it's prolonged, there were many questions, and they got to share. I was so impressed. If you don't mind, I'll just share one thing about Scouts. It's very interesting as an adult to have fellow adults coming up to you and saying, hey, that was good, Basil, that was a great card game, that was nice. But when you've got kids, the Scouts, I think there was a 15-year-old and an 11-year-old, was it? Maybe 12-year-old, who came up to me and said, that was great. I really enjoyed that. I've never been able to share that with my friends. To have kids come up to you to tell them how much they enjoyed themselves, that just felt so sincere. I went home touched last night, Tess. Thank you very much for that experience. There was a question on this side. Someone over here? You had your hands up? Over, where was it? Okay, you've got a mic.
I realized with my questions, I had to think about the answers for quite a while, because I haven't been prompted to answer that question. And they were not very easy to answer because of whatever reason. Also, I realized I only needed one item or one situation to be in common with the other person, and the connection took place. And often that's all we need. It'll be either our faith, our religion, or our profession, or our love for each other, which is love, which is universal.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for that. And that's exactly why we created the card game, because in theory, having diversity conversations, it's easy, but when you do it, it starts off a little bit hard. So all you need is a tool, right, to bounce off of, like these cards. Thank you.
I just want to say that it made us examine ourselves much more deeply.
Wonderful.
We don't always do.
Very nice, thank you. I hope you experienced the small table version, right? Because then you get to go deeper and you get to really examine yourselves more deeply. Because some of these questions, make no mistake about it, we start off easy, but then we go intermediate and we go hard, right? So that's why level 1, 2, 3, some of you had level 1 questions, some had level 2, some had level 3. So keep note, that's always deeper. There's always deeper that you can move into. Thank you very much, everyone. I have